Hi everyone, this is Dr. S. M. Badger. Today we are going to see about Sir Philip Sidney and apology to poetry. So here Philip Sidney was born in 1554 to 1585. So Sidney's apology for poetry is considered the best work that opened the ages of literary criticism in England. So it was written in 1585 and published after his death 1595. It is said to be the first important critical text in the English literary criticism. So here you can see what is apology to poetry. So here it is just a letter from Sir Philip Sidney to Stephen Gosson. So Philip Sidney for apology for poetry deals with two ideas. That is, poetry is of defined origin and that is social utility for poetry. The first session is all about the praise of poetry. So here it defines how poetry should be and how it is made important with the modern terms. That is, it is a cradle of civilization. It is a channel of divine power. Poetry can teach and delight. It can surpass the virtue of history and philosophy. So that was the first session. All he praised about how it can matter. So this he tells in Sidney's argument in defense of poetry that it is a cradle of civilization. So what is a cradle of civilization? So poetry is the first light giver to ignorance that flourished before any other art or science. The earliest philosopher and historians who were poets. The first law, that is Greek, Roman philosophers, are written in verse. So it is a channel of divine power. So poetry is a divine and as well as prophets in the Holy Bible of praising God and Solomon use verse. The new idea created by poet can withstand the test of time and according to Sidney in existent poetry is defined. So with this you can see how poetry can teach and delight. The end of poetry is to teach and please, hence it is unstable to society. That is, the imitation of poetry are able to delight and teach. They provides perfect indispute example of good and bad. Poetry inspires every individual to discard the voice of villains and imitate the noble and virtuous actions of heroes. So here you can see poetry can surpass the virtues of history and philosophy. So poetry unites universal truth of philosophy with concentrate example of histories. So philosophy can only produce concentrate universal truth through examples. They don't have the power to implant themselves in our memory and judgment. History is bound to recount a particular event just as it was, even database with and encourages voices. Poet is free to alter the particular event so as to a more universal expect survey. In second session, Sidney refused 4 arguments available against poetry made by Stephen Gosson in the essay The School of Abuse. So here the argument says that poetry is unprofitable, poetry is a mother of lie, poetry leads to sinful behavior, poetry that is flatter kick the post out of the republic. So with this you can see how the poets have been mainly used with the argument. So this was the abuse of Stephen Gosson made to poetry. So with this only he has given the reply to Stephen Gosson in a letter which it can be made used as how poetry is unprofitable, poetry is the mother of lies, poetry leads to sinful behavior and how it is being planned to kick the poet out of his republic. So with this you can see how it is mainly used with Sir Philip Sidney and how it can be way to argue in this poetry. So this how it is a poetry, how mainly leads to the second session how Stephen Gosson says about the school of abuse. So with this, we have completed the school of abuse by Sir Philip Sidney. Thank you so much.